This is a tree in Minecraft. This is also a tree in Minecraft. And today I'll be collecting hundreds of thousands of blocks in order to completely revamp my tree farm, which at the moment looks like trash. And guys, I've decided to give away my entire world download completely free at 100,000 subscribers. So if you want to unlock the download link and gain access to everything I've ever done in this world, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Hardcore series. Feels good to be back for another beautiful day on this game, and as I mentioned, I'm going to be spending a lot of time here, and at the moment, this is rubbish. I mean, it's hurting my eyes to look at. It is so incredibly ugly. Something needs to change here. So we're going to be revamping this entire section today, which poses the first question: how exactly am I going to revamp this entire section? Well, there were some really good suggestions in the comments. However, a lot of people are suggesting that I build a massive magical tree around this area, and to be honest, I agree with that. I do have a vision for this at the moment. This potentially will need to move out of the way, and we might even need to rebuild this into the ground. But I think the answer is clear, being that this absolutely needs to be like a massive tree with magical leaves spewing out the top. So you know me, I don't like to waste any time. Let's start planning this project. Alrighty, let's take a look. So I want this tree to be kind of big and mystical, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like darker wood types give off that vibe. So I'm thinking for the roots and the base, we potentially go with dark oak or spruce logs. This cloud has completely ruined my entire life. Let's move over this way. And considering that this farm needs to sit inside the tree, we can't really go for any weird curvy shapes for the branches, or for the trunk of the tree, I mean. So it's gonna have to pretty much go straight up this way and kind of curve out to the roots at the bottom. But yeah, I think the idea for the roots is pretty clear. But if you guys want to see how the leaves of this tree turn out, make sure you stick around to the end of the video, because I have a pretty sick idea for the leaves of this tree. Anyways, enough yapping. I reckon we get started with the trunk immediately. And how coincidental, to revamp our tree farm, I'm gonna need to use our tree farm. So looks like we definitely have enough bone meal here from last episode, and I think I've decided on using spruce logs, and we don't have any spruce saplings, so give me one sec. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to spend a good chunk of my life here. I'm not exactly sure how many blocks we'll need, but I think I just want to get a start so I know what I have to work with. Once we've gathered a few logs, I'm ready to start outlining the trunks of this build. Alright, we've been here for a little bit. All the logs basically went into our inventory. I definitely don't think this is enough to complete the build. Well, I'm very certain this isn't enough to complete the build, but I think it's enough to get started on the base. So I'm going to turn all of these spruce logs into spruce wood and then start outlining the build here. Alright, so I am thinking I want the roots of this tree to extend quite far out into the ground, which means if I were to build it here, I'd have to do quite a bit of terraforming around the land, and I'm not about to place 100,000 blocks of dirt. So I'm thinking this area here is a better place to build it. That, of course, means I'll need to tear down the tree farm and rebuild it here, but I'm totally happy to do that. And I might even revamp the tree farm while I'm at it. But yeah, guys, this area seems way better. It's a lot flatter. The only hill is this thing here, and I'm happy to tear this down. Shouldn't be too difficult. And that way I can really extend the roots out along the ground and not have too much trouble terraforming the land. All right, so I'm going to get crafting these logs into wood blocks, and then I'm going to outline the trunk of the build. Right, we got a decent starting amount here. I think it should be enough to at least sort of see the shape. I think I'll implement the trunk first and then do some terraforming around it, because I don't want to terraform land and then realize that I've messed it up. So let's go right into the middle here and get this trunk in. Okie dokie, ladies and gentlemen, this is kind of the shape that I want to go for. Let's take a look real quick. So I'm obviously going to need to bring the land up to this level quite a bit, just around these corner bits though, because these will extend out into roots, which I think it's fine if it's kind of coming off the ground a bit. But I'm going to work this up towards the middle to get the shape of the trunk continuing, and then we can start thinking about the roots. But yeah, general opinions, I think it's pretty decent. I'm happy with the shape of this. I'm going to continue building it up to see what we can get. Alright, we're very speedily running out of wood. We've blasted through basically a whole inventory of wood, but this shape is looking pretty decent. I think if I just follow this arc all the way up, we should end up with a really, really nice shape. I'm gonna go collect some more logs. Guys, I am using a schematic for this just to go off reference, so I'm gonna link that in the description if you want to check it out. But yeah, anyways, back to grinding some wood. All right. We've managed to gather a few more logs here. I still don't think this is enough to complete the entire build, but it's definitely enough to get the roots in. I have a feeling that the trunk of this is mainly just going to be following this pattern upwards. So to keep things a little more interesting, I'm going to work on designing these roots down to the ground, meaning I'll probably have to do a bit of terraforming to figure out how to get the roots to connect to the grass. So let's craft up our wood and start working on this. Well, I guess welcome back to another Shinjaroo crafting montage. And boom, we have 2 shulker boxes full and a couple to work with straight away here. So again, I have the schematic to work off here, but I think this mountain is kind of honestly a good height, and the drop off there seems a little too steep. So I almost want to extend this part out this way. So rather than excavating the hill, I actually extend the hill out. That's going to be quite a lot of dirt. So I'm going to see how far out the roots extend first, and I'll tackle the terraforming when I get to it. Just trying to avoid my problems as usual. All right, legends. I put a couple more roots in here. I really like the way these look. I'm gonna get the rest of these roots in here, and then we can start to think about how we're gonna connect them to the ground. But for now, let's just have fun getting these roots in. And we are done with the roots of the tree. I did this actually way quicker than I thought I would. I thought it would take heaps of time, but I got it done pretty quickly. And honestly, not gonna lie, I don't think we need to adjust the floor too much. I mean, this is probably the most problematic one since it's literally hovering. But as for the rest of them, I mean, they're all touching the ground in one way or another, and I don't mind there being gaps underneath like this. I don't know, maybe you guys disagree and it's actually really ugly. Let me know in the comments, but I think it's fine. All right, and I think you guys deserve to see how the tree's actually gonna look rather than watch me place a bunch of dirt for like an hour. So what I'm gonna do is build this trunk up just a little bit to the point where we can start thinking about branching out into the leaves. And then I guess I'll do this. I really don't want to, but sometimes you gotta do what you don't want to do. And not gonna lie, it's looking pretty spacious in the middle here. Probably just enough space for our tree farm. I can always dig the ground out if I need extra space, but I don't think we'll need it. Why'd I do that? Now I have to replace all this dirt. That was so stupid. Anyways, let's get this trunk in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting to the part of the trunk where we're going to need to start branching out into the branches. So you can kind of see these areas here kind of go out a little bit more than the trunk does. That's because they're obviously going to go way wider. So I think the best way to handle this is just create each branch so we can kind of visualize where the leaves are going to go and then just finish the rest of the trunk. And we're getting pretty high up here. If I had a fear of heights, I'd probably be worried at this point, and we only have higher to go. So let's get straight to work. I thought I'd give a quick little update. We have a few of the branches put in here. Basically, I'm going to continue the trunk upwards and then sprout these branches out like I have on this layer. And we'll probably go for maybe 2 or 3 more layers, and then we can finally get working on the leaves. Boom, the entire trunk is in, I believe. Looks pretty solid to me. I mean, compared to the trading hall, they're pretty similar in size, and once the leaves are in, they're definitely going to be comparable. But now that we've completed the monotonous task of placing like 3,000 wood blocks, we can move on to putting the leaves in. Now, unfortunately for me, I've decided to make the leaves consist of yellow stained glass panes, yellow wool, gold blocks, and frog lights. And as for the amounts of each of those, let me show you what we're dealing with real quick. I've decided to go for 42,191 yellow stained glass, 42,007 stained glass panes, 8,212 yellow wool, 8,127 gold blocks, 8,079 shroom lights. However, I'm going to replace these with a different version of frog light. And finally, we have the ochre frog light variant at 4,047. Yeah, sometimes I really wonder why I do this to myself, but I think one thing is clear. We're going to need a sand duper. All right, so step one is to get rid of all of this crap. All right, now step two is to remove the frames. So boom, boom, bang, bang, boom. Oh my God, that's the wrong block. Bang. All right, now we're gonna flick this and then, oh, I need my piston. Move over here and then just spam this button. There we go, that's one down. All right, that was pretty smooth. Now I just need to do that for all the rest of the 11 frames here. That is the last frame destroyed. Now all that's left is this little plate of blueberries. And with the frames gone, we can build the duper now. Alrighty, that is the actual contraption itself done. We obviously need to build some chunk loaders and also the collection system on the end side, but that shouldn't take too long at all. I'm going to put my sand in here real quick. And then once I've done that, I'll build the chunk loaders and then head to the end. Yeah, perfect. All of that sand should be going into the end, which is perfect. All right, let's switch it off. It's kind of loud. There we go. All right, so this chunk loader can be anywhere in the chunk, so I reckon I'll just stick it in the corner here. All right, we should be good to put it here. So I'm going to pop my soul sand down and my water, and then obviously these all need to be turned into source blocks. Perfect. Those are all source blocks now. I'm going to chuck my ender pearl down into this chamber, and I should just float there. And because that ender pearl is floating there, it's going to keep the entire chunk loaded, which means our farm can run when we're in another dimension. All right, so that's pretty sweet. I just want to ensure that nothing touches that or gets in the way. So I'm going to light this up and then close off the area so no mobs can interfere. Boom, boom. Okie dokie. That's pretty sweet. Now we can work on the inside. Oh my God. Okay. Far out. We need to build this collection system ASAP. That's kind of crazy. All right, so I actually thought it would be a good idea to stop the farm while I build this. I know, I'm a genius. But yeah, man, I'm just going to smash through this collection system. It shouldn't take too long at all. All right, I'm going to build a little collection system underneath so that we can get all our items. Alrighty. And we're going to get the items to flow down this way, down to a hopper right here. I'm going to quickly build a cage around this too, just to make sure we're getting every single possible item. All right, perfect. All right, now I'm going to put these hoppers in real quick. So I just have to head down this way. This hopper's going to go down in here. All right, then I'm just going to send these along a few lines of chests, probably maybe a little bit longer. So, I mean, I guess let's just turn the farm on and see how it works. Pretty sure we've done everything we need to do. Let's give it a try. So flip this on and flip this on. All right, all the sand is duping. Now let's make our way into the end. Oh my God, yeah. Okay, so the farm's working and yeah, all my days, the collection system is definitely working too. That's perfect. I mean, let's just AFK this and see how it goes. Okay, guys, this sand duper is actually OP. I was literally here for like half an hour and we have 34 shulker boxes full of sand. So now all we have to do is smelt it into glass and then dye it. All right. We made it over to the super smelter. I'm going to need to extend this storage system quite a bit because we'll need a lot of room. All right, I'm going to start unloading all this sand. I'm probably going to be here for a while. A lot of shulker boxes here, but after that, I'm going to sit up there and AFK for a bit and hopefully all of our sand smelts up pretty quickly. Is this the best way to unload items? No. Do I ever use the most efficient method? No. I'm gonna sit up here for a few days and I'll catch you guys in a sec. All right, guys, so I'm AFKing my mob farm and I thought I'd show you this. I went down to check on how the glass is smelting up and as I came back up, I saw this sitting on top of my AFK chamber. Not really sure how they got there, but I kind of want to keep them. So hopefully they don't despawn or fall off this platform and maybe we can keep them as pets. All right, guys, welcome back. It's been a couple of days for me and probably a couple of seconds for you guys. After a combination of automatically smelting and manually smelting, I think we can finally get started on dyeing all of this glass up. Yeah, almost 60,000 glass takes quite a while to smelt, believe it or not. But once we load all of these shulker boxes up with glass, we can finally move on to obtaining the dye for this. And of course, there's still plenty of other steps to go, but it brings us one step closer to our goal. All right, so now that we have most of our glass loaded up here right next to the tree, I'm going to start thinking about the other materials we need. So first of all, we need the dye to actually create the stained glass. And I'm also going to need a bunch of yellow wool. So what I'm going to do is quickly build an automatic wool farm pretty much just at my base so that as I'm going about my day completing all the rest of the tasks, we'll just be passively generating yellow wool. So I'm going to take care of that real quick and then go over build the dye farm. I reckon this space here should do perfectly fine. Let's get to work. All right, I think this is pretty much done here. All I need to do now is get the shears into that chest and of course get the sheep into place. And once I've done that, this can pretty much just run passively in the background. So as I work on the other materials, we'll just slowly collect wool, I suppose. So yeah, I'm going to work on getting these sheep in real quick. All right, we got the last sheep in there. I believe this is in the spawn chunks as well, so we shouldn't have to build any chunk loaders. So as I go about my day, all of these guys are just going to generate me a bunch of yellow wool, and hopefully by the time this project nears its end, we'll actually have enough wool for the leaves. All right, now that this beautiful wool generator is done, I'm going to move right next door and build the dye farm. We're actually in the correct biome to get the yellow flowers as well, so I'm just going to probably plop it somewhere here. And guys, I've calculated that the amount of dye we need for this build is 4 shulker boxes of yellow dye. So I'm crossing my fingers that this farm is efficient. All right, that's literally done. That was the easiest farm I've built in this series so far. All we got to do is put a little bit of bone meal in here and give it a test. All right, let's give it a go. Oh yeah. All right, guys, not gonna lie, I'm probably just gonna run this straight for like a couple of minutes. And honestly, I think I'll have enough in no time. So I'll see you guys when we have all the dye that we need. All right, guys, I'm not even joking. I reckon I was here for probably like 5 minutes or something. And we already have our 4 shulker boxes full. So even if we need a little bit more than 4 shulker boxes, bro, I'm not gonna have any trouble getting that at all. But yeah, anyways, now that I have our yellow dye, I can go visit the glass and start making these panes and stained glass. So let's unload one of our many shulker boxes here of glass and make all this stained glass. Alrighty guys, so I worked out that I'm going to need 12 double chests for the stained glass alone, and then another 12 chests for the stained glass panes, and that's only the glass blocks alone. That's not considering all the rest of the materials. This tree is the bane of my existence at the moment. Nevertheless, I chose to build it, so let's continue. All right, I'm super hungry right now because I've been here doing this for a while, but we have every single double chest full here, which means we can move on to the stained glass panes now, which basically just consists of more yellow stained glass. So, all right, boom. There we go, boys and girls. We have all of our stained glass and all of our panes finally, meaning there's only 4 more materials we need here. So let's move on to those ASAP. This is all too familiar. All right, so if you can't already tell by the fact that we're in a swamp, we're gonna need these guys here to obtain the variant of Froglight we need for this build. So for like the 3rd episode in a row, I hope you guys enjoy this montage of me taking the frogs for a trip through multiple dimensions. All right, we lost someone on the way in, but it's all good. No! Frog, hang in there, bro. I got you. 1 sec. Oh my god, this has never been more important. I've never dealt with... Oh my god. But can you... This is the most important thing I've ever done in my life. Hang in there, bro. Oh my god, bro. Almost lost one. Oh yeah, we did lose one, by the way. Just thought I'd let you guys know that. We're down to 3. We started with 5, now we're at 3. So yeah, amazing gameplay from me as always. Make sure you like the video for more stuff like this. Come on in, come on in. Welcome to your new home forever. Come on in, boys. No, what are you doing? He's gonna die. Oh my god, now we're down to 2. All right, I'm gonna quickly close this off here so they can't get out. Boom. Are you bro, are you actually joking? He just jumped. You're the worst freaking frog I've ever met in my entire life. Stop being a little brat. All right, well, after that little, I don't even know. I guess the frogs are in, so I'm ready to AFK here for a while, so I'll see you guys in a sec. All right, boom, I have returned and we have all the frog lights that we need, which means we only have one more thing left to do, as I assume we're gonna have enough wool. So once... What the hell? All right, anyways, the last thing we need to do is grab roughly 8,000 gold blocks. Luckily for us, we built a pretty insane gold farm last episode. So again, I'm pretty much playing AFK Simulator here. But once we have the gold, I think we're pretty much ready to start putting the leaves in. We have made it to the gold farm. And if I've got this right, this should take approximately 6 hours. So yeah. Okie dokie, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally gotten all of our gold. It's been a while. So as you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and almost a fifth one here, which means we're done with this gold section now. Oh yeah, and I've decided to go for verdant frog lights instead of the shroom lights, just to give a little bit of extra color. So I'm going to quickly grab those. Once I've grabbed those, I'll head back to the build site and we can finally get started on these leaves. Okay, just a little bit more AFKing for me. All right, boys and girls, we finally have all the frog lights we need, which means once we return to the home base, we can finally get these insane leaves into the build. Okay, we're back at the base and I am finally ready to build the greatest tree of all time, and the Shinjiro army will prevail and we shall have the greatest home base in the history of the entire... I don't know what I'm doing, but let's start. Alright guys, little update. It's coming together pretty well. It's just so difficult to build and it's taking so long, but I am starting to see the payoff and it looks pretty dang sick if I do say so myself, so I'm excited to continue this. All right, guys, moment of truth. Oh my god, that's so sick, dude. No, that's genuinely really cool. Guys, it's taken me about 2 weeks, but I think it's worth it. Name me a better tree than the tree of Shinjiro. I'll wait. Nah, but in all seriousness, this is really cool. I'm super happy with this. Well, I mean, after a grueling process over multiple days, this episode can finally conclude. Oh, I almost forgot actually. There's one more thing we need to do before we can end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.